Hey guys, it's Nick from Nintendo Dads here. We have a review for you. This time it is Rage in Peace, R.I.P. Hey, if you guys have ever watched Final Destination, that fun little movie where everyone dies but nobody knows how, well, guess what? Rage in Peace is the final destination of video games. No, really, it is. Maybe more than one way. Hey, this game is brought to us by Togue Productions, published by Togue Production, I should say, developed by Rolling Glory Jam. Try to say that 3 times fast. We want to give them both a big thank you for giving us a code to this game so that we could get you fine folks a review. So quick disclaimer here before I get too far in. This game is about death, and a lot of death, and it's a cartoony graphics kind of showing a lot of stuff. So if you got some kiddos with you, you may want to kind of just tell them to go, play in another room or watch this later on tonight or something like that, because it gets a little gory at sometimes. So you might be wondering, what in the heck is Rage in Peace all about? Well, you play as a guy named Timmy. Now see, Timmy's an actuary, that's why he's in his business clothes, and one day, while he's off to actuary work, he meets the Grim Reaper. This is unfortunate, as the Grim Reaper gives him some pretty bad news. That is, of course, that Timmy's gonna die. Timmy's gonna die today, in fact. This saddens Timmy, not necessarily the fact that he's going to die, but the fact that he's going to die not in bed, in his pajamas, peacefully asleep, which is Timmy's ultimate dream. So, the Grim Reaper ponders upon this and gives him some good news and bad news. The bad news is that not only is Timmy gonna die, but he's gonna die by having his head cut off. The good news is that Timmy's going to die today, not necessarily right now. You see, in the game, in the very beginning, it's the morning. So, Timmy has the day to try to journey his way back to the house, back to his home, back to his bed, back in his pajamas, and back to sleep, so he can die peacefully asleep in his bed, in his pajamas. To do this, though, he's going to have to cheat death a little bit. And we all know, if you've watched Final Destination, we all know how much death really hates to be cheated. So while this starter segment of the game finishes up, I will tell you about the controls. They are fairly simple. The controls, you move right or left in a 2D platformer space. The B button makes you jump. You do gain a double jump fairly shortly into the first act. And so that allows Timmy to kind of jump in midair. Obviously, get a little more height. There is multiple gameplay, and we'll show some of that, where sometimes you're doing 2D platforming, sometimes you have this kind of above, top-down floating style where you're moving Timmy around, and sometimes he's actually fluttering. He has wings. So there's all kinds of different gameplay styles that they institute in this game to kind of break it up and give you some variations. So I would, so if you're going to categorize Rage in Peace, I would call it a memorization puzzler platformer. And there's a specific reason for that. Though platforming is certainly a skill that'll be needed in this game, more than anything it's about memorizing where the obstacles are and puzzling how to avoid them. The minimal amount of skill needed in the platforming section pales in comparison to what you'll need to do to memorize where all the obstacles are. They just, quite frankly, come at you too fast, and you can't puzzle your way from one to the other knowing what the obstacles will be, because the obstacles don't always act the same way every time. So, for instance, you'll see with later on, well, you can see right here with the puddles of water. There's one puddle of water where spikes come out, and there's another puddle of water where there are no spikes. In fact, it almost teaches you to jump over a puddle of water, and then right here, if you would jump, you'd get hit by a spiked ball. So it at some point seems like the creators are trolling you a little bit, and that does get frustrating for sure. Through my 6 hours of play to beat the story in this game, there were times that I just wanted to be like, this is ridiculous, and put the controller down and call it a day. So here, I just want to touch on the cutscenes in this game. You have already seen some of them earlier on in this review. There are quite a lot of cutscenes in this game. It's all due to the fact that this frustrating gameplay is set on top of a pretty robust game story, quite frankly. A story of Timmy and his journey through life, what he's gone through, and what he's going to go through today, and what he's going to learn from that. And that story's told with a I would say an above average writing style for especially relative to video games. It's funny but introspective at times. It makes you think about your life, and it makes you think about others too. So I think they've done a pretty good job. Here you'll see kind of the funny part where he, if you've been reading, so he just got the double jump, and Timmy says, wait, double jump doesn't make it. You can't do a double jump in life. You can't jump off of plein air. And the Grim Reaper's like, just go with it, Timmy. Stop thinking about it. Just be glad you got it, because you're going to need it. Alright guys, wanted to give you the full tour of the video game here. Right here, this is the overworld, I guess you would call it. There are 6 acts in this video game. You beat one act, open up the next. You can always go back to the previous act to if you want to try to redo something. So that's helpful. The acts are broken up into multiple stages, so you can get to a specific spot without having to go through the whole thing. Right here you have the special speedrun area. You can try speedrun records for any one of the first 5 acts, and you can try a pilgrimage run, which is beating the entire game without dying. If there's one person who does this, I want to know, and they deserve like a medal, like a serious medal. I cannot fathom doing that. I mean, it's just crazy to think about. At any given point in time, you can open up the journal and you can see memos. These are mementos here. You can collect these little things throughout the game. They're harder to get, and you can collect all those. This is your almanac of death, basically. Your alma-death is what they call it. Everything that can kill you. There are achievements in this game. Can you beat each of the acts? Can you beat the act in 3 lives, 6 lives, 9 lives? Here's your stats. I beat the game in about 6 hours. It took me 1,373 lives to do it. I'm now up to 1,400 just collecting footage. Memos are little areas that come along with each of the cutscenes, which is really cool. So here, I wanted to talk a little bit. I've said that this game can be super frustrating to play, but that there is a story that it's set upon that is pretty good. It's above average, is I guess the best way to say it. It's not amazing, but it's a good story, and it will make you think. So if you're interested in playing that story, and you don't, you just want the game to be a little bit easier so you can focus more on the story and less on some of the gameplay that can be rather frustrating at times, you can turn on what they call Goldfish mode, which, as you can see, is up in the upper right-hand corner there. You see a little goldfish. That is not going to make this game super easy by any means, okay? Let's not, I don't want to mince words here, okay? It's going to be easier. That's not saying a lot with this game where I died 1,373 times just to beat it, okay? Now, I did all that without Goldfish mode, but I don't think it's going to be super easier with Goldfish mode. Goldfish mode, really, what I have seen it do more than anything is to allow you to have more checkpoints. So here, what you're about to see is one of the boss modes, one of the bosses in the game. The bosses aren't where you're just really dodging it and the boss is hurting itself. There is no, you're never fighting back, quite frankly. So just understand that. You're just avoiding everything. Try to avoid everything. If you don't play in Goldfish mode, there are less checkpoints. There are actually no checkpoints in this boss if you play without Goldfish mode. If you play with Goldfish mode, I think there's like 3 or 4 checkpoints within the boss run itself. So it does make it quite a bit easier, but as you can tell, it's still pretty difficult. Alright guys, my final thoughts on Rage in Peace. I thought there was too much rage and not enough peace. That's a funny thing to say, but true. I really thought the gameplay just really frustrated me. The gotcha moments, they're just not up my alley. They're not something that I can appreciate enough. I think it's not enough about skill and too much about memorization for me personally. I have told you about the story. There is a strong story. That's the foundation of this video game. And it's pretty well written relative to video games. So if you're really into that, I will be the first to tell you it's hard to find decent stories in video games. And if you're looking for that, this could be a place for that to happen. But even on Goldfish mode, let me tell you that gameplay is going to be hard to stomach at times. And ironically, you're seeing one of the areas where they do a really good job right here of intertwining story and gameplay. Most of this video game, they do not do as well a job of intertwining what you're doing, how you're moving Timmy around, and what you're doing with him, and where they are in the cutscene of the story. A lot of times you just finish a really tough area, and then they go into a cutscene, and you kind of are confused how the two relate. I think they could do a better job with that. With that said, this game is $12.99 on the eShop right now. I want to be very clear. I have not found any bugs. I have not found any issues with this game. It plays well. The controls are tight, as you can tell here. I couldn't get through this area if they weren't. But for me personally, I just can't recommend it as a pickup, quite frankly. But if you, like I said, if you like what you see here, I have given you a grand tour of this game. Please, by all means, pick it up. That's just my opinion. Hey guys, this is Nick from Nintendo Dads. I hope this has helped you make your decision on this game. Signing out. See you later. Game over, folks.